This is the Music Halls of Fame podcast. This week we honor the year in music for 2013 along with a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class of 2013. We look at the case for putting Joe Bonamassa into next year's class of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Plus our Spotlight Walk of Fame is the Hollywood Walk of Fame in Los Angeles, California. Before we get going with the podcast, like everyone tells you, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you'll know when these podcast episodes drop, which is usually every Thursday. Now, on to this week's episode. The year was 2013. For music in 2013, Beyoncé reunited with the rest of Destiny's Child during her halftime performance at the Super Bowl. Then on December 13th, she surprise dropped her album Beyoncé, starting a trend of big-name artists surprise dropping their albums. Lorde debuted in 2013 with her album Pure Heroin. Some of the biggest albums of the year were Daft Punk's Random Access Memories, Rihanna's Unapologetic, Mumford & Sons' Babel, Pink's The Truth About Love, Eminem's The Marshall Mathers LP 2, Katy Perry's Prism, Lady Gaga's Art Pop, Lorde's aforementioned album Pure Heroin, Bruno Mars's Unorthodox Jukebox, Florida Georgia Line's Here's to Good Times, One Direction's Take Me Home, Drake's Nothing Was the Same, Beyoncé's self-titled aforementioned album, Beyoncé, Blake Shelton's Based on a True Story, Luke Bryan's Crash My Party, Imagine Dragons and Night Visions, Tyler, the Creator's Wolf, Jay-Z's Magna Carta Holy Grail, Justin Timberlake's The 2020 Experience, 21 Pilots Vessel, and Chance the Rapper's Acid Rap. The soundtrack to the movie Frozen came out late in 2013, but got mega popular in 2014. Singles-wise, 2013 was the year of Daft Punk, who ruled the charts with their smash hit Get Lucky. Robin Thicke became big with his song Blurred Lines and then was sued and lost the lawsuit in 2015 to Marvin Gaye's estate when the estate said that Blurred Lines was a little too close to Marvin's 1970s classic song Got to Give It Up. Other hits from 2013 included Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball, Katy Perry's Roar, Lorde's Royals, Avicii's Wake Me Up, Macklemore's Can't Hold Us along with Thrift Shop, and Drake's Started From the Bottom Now We Here, along with the novelty song What Does the Fox Say from the duo Elvis. In country music, 2013 marked the year that Taylor Swift ended her country period with her album Red. Her next album, 1989, would take her musical styles from country into the pop realm. Country was still pretty strong, though, as artists like Blake Shelton, Florida Georgia Line, Luke Bryan, Jason Aldean, Little Big Town Eric Church, Lady Antebellum, now known as Lady A, Hunter Hayes, Darius Rucker, the band Perry, and Tim McGraw all had very good years. In hip-hop, Macklemore and Ryan Lewis were the big artists with songs Thrift Shop and Can't Hold Us. Kendrick Lamar, Lil Wayne, Drake, Jay-Z, Pitbull, Eminem, Whale, and J. Cole also had big years. The biggest albums were released by Eminem, Jay-Z, Kanye, Drake, J. Cole, Lil Wayne, Whale, Kid Cudi, A$AP Rocky, and Mac Miller. In dance music, EDM was in full swing in the mainstream, with EDM artists regularly cracking both the pop and dance charts to go along with the usual pop and R&B artists who were normally found on the dance charts. 2013 was the year that Bauer broke through with the hit Harlem Shake, thanks to the viral video trend that surrounded the song. At the age of 17, Martin Garrix came onto the scene with his song Animals. Avicii's Wake Me Up moved him into the mainstream and into the top 10 on the pop charts, along with Daft Punk's song Get Lucky. Other dance albums of the year that came from EDM artists included Emily Sands' Next to Me, Fatboy Slim's Eat, Sleep, Rave, Repeat, Dimitri Vegas and Like Mike's Mammoth, Alesso and One Republic's If I Lose Myself, Dubs and Bourget's Tsunami, Showtek's Booyah, Oliver Heldens' Gecko, Tegan and Sarah's Closer, Vessie's We Are Young, Tiesto's Red Lights, Cedric Gervais's remix of Lana Del Rey's ballad Summertime Sadness, Zed's Clarity, David Guetta's Work Hard, Swedish House Mafia's Don't You Worry Child, and Icona Pop's I Love It. 2013 was also the year of the Superstar Stadium DJ, as the top 10 DJs on DJ Mag's Top 100 DJs poll were Hardwell, Armin van Buuren, Avicii, Tiesto, David Guetta, Dimitri Vegas and Like Mike, Nicky Romero, Steve Aoki, Afrojack, and Dash Berlin. In Latin music, the big artists of the year were Jenny Rivera, Marc Anthony, Romeo Santos, Don Omar, Prince Royce, Alejandro Fernandez, Maná, Alejandro Sanz, and Daddy Yankee. Musicals and revivals of musicals that came out in 2013 included American Psycho the musical, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory the musical, The Commitments the musical, Motown the musical, Kinky Boots, Pippin, and Beautiful the Carole King musical. Musical films that came out in 2013 included The Sapphires, Inside Llewellyn Davis, Begin Again, Black Nativity, along with animated films Frozen, which came out very late in the year, but became huge in 2014. Bands that formed in 2013 included BTS, the Brothers Osborne, GRL, Pup, and Run the Jewels. Stone Temple Pilots lead singer Scott Weiland was fired from the band and was replaced for a while by Chester Bennington of Linkin Park. Bands that either broke up before their inevitable reunions or announced their hiatus in 2013 included A Tribe Called Quest, The Bloodhound Gang, Evanescence, Lifehouse, Mumford & Sons, My Chemical Romance, Climax, The Swedish House Mafia, Naughty by Nature, Girls Aloud, The Jonas Brothers, and Prince and the New Power Generation. At least half of those groups got back together again in some way, shape, or form within a decade. In fact, the Postal Service broke up and reformed all in the same year, 2013. Bands that also reformed in 2013, other than the Postal Service, included All Saints, Danity Kane, Black Flag, The Calling, Jurassic 5, Fall Out Boy, King Crimson, Nine Inch Nails, Rocket from the Crypt, The Violent Femmes, and TLC. Artists who unfortunately passed away in 2013 included singer Patti Page, singer Patty Andrews from the Andrews Sisters, Ray Manzarek of The Doors, entertainer Annette Funicello, Chrissy Amphlett of The Divinyls, Joey Covington of Jefferson Airplane, country music singer Mindy McCready, singer Tony Sheridan, pianist Van Cliburn, rapper Lil Snoop, guitarist Alvin Lee of 10 Years After, Alan Myers of Devo, Corey Monteith of Glee, drummer Clive Burr of Iron Maiden, pianist Don Shirley, folk music singer Richie Havens, country music singer George Jones, blues singer Bobby Bluebland, singer J.J. Cale, Chris Kelly of Criss Cross, Pete Haycock of Climax Blues Band, keyboardist George M. Duke, singer Edie Gourmet of the duo Steve and Edie, Philip Chevron of the Pogues, Jan Kulemund of the group Vixen, Jeff Hanneman of Slayer, jazz pianist Cedar Walton Jr., Lou Reed of the Velvet Underground, jazz drummer and bandleader Chico Hamilton, and singer-songwriter Ray Price. In award ceremonies for the music of 2013, at the Grammy Awards, Daft Punk became the first EDM act to win Album of the Year for their album Random Access Memories. Get Lucky won the French duo Record of the Year. Song of the Year went to Lords' Royals. And 2013 was the year that Macklemore and Ryan Lewis beat out Kendrick Lamar for Best New Artist. An extremely controversial decision, to be nice about it. At the MTV Video Music Awards, Justin Timberlake's Mirrors won Video of the Year. That was also the ceremony when Miley Cyrus twerked in front of Robin Thicke during his performance of his song Blurred Lines, leading people to somehow think that Miley Cyrus invented twerking, which has actually been around for a couple hundred years. Anyway, at the American Music Awards, Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, and Florida Georgia Line were the big winners. At the Billboard Music Awards, Justin Timberlake, Miley Cyrus, Lorde, and Robin Thicke were the big winners. Kendrick Lamar won Album of the Year at the Soul Train Music Awards. Justin Timberlake's 2020 Experience won Favorite Album, and Katy Perry's song Roar won Favorite Song at the People's Choice Awards. George Strait won Entertainer of the Year at the Country Music Association Awards, and Miranda Lambert and Luke Bryan were the big winners at the Academy of Country Music Awards. Arctic Monkeys won Best British Album for AM and Rudimental, and Ella Eyre won Best Song for Waiting All Night at the Brit Awards. Serena Ryder won Artist of the Year, while Arcade Fire won Album of the Year for Reflector, and Tegan and Sara won Song of the Year for Closer at the Juno Awards. Tame Impala won Album of the Year for Lonerism, and Matt Corby won Song of the Year for Resolution at the ARIA Music Awards. At the Eurovision Singing Contest, which was held in Malmö, Sweden, Emily de Forest from the country of Denmark won for the song Only Teardrops. At the Tony Awards, Kinky Boots won Best Musical and Pippin won Best Revival of a Musical. For Academy Award music categories, the soundtrack to the movie Frozen won Best Film Score, and the song Let It Go from Frozen won Best Song. Caroline Shaw won the Pulitzer Prize for Music for Partita for 8 Voices. James Blake won the Mercury Music Prize for his album Overgrown. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony took place on April 18, 2013 at the Nokia Theater in Los Angeles, California. It was the first time that Los Angeles hosted the ceremony since 1993. It was the first year that the fans were able to vote on who would get in. That vote, which only counted for 1 of 500 votes for the hall, was won by the group Rush. The hall inducted record producer and executive Lou Adler and producer and songwriter Quincy Jones into the non-performers category. In the performers category, the hall inducted Heart, Randy Newman, Public Enemy, Albert King, Donna Summer, and this next group. The band Rush, along with the group Yes, were 2 of the most influential progressive rock groups of all time. Started in 1968 in Willowdale, Toronto, Ontario, the original lineup was guitarist Alex Lifeson, singer and bassist Jeff Jones, and drummer John Rutsey. After only a couple of weeks, Jones was replaced by Alex's classmate Geddy Lee. Even though they added and subtracted a couple more people, this was the lineup that they went with by 1971. As for the band's name, well, that came courtesy of John Rutsey's brother. The group played in Toronto, gained a following, and in 1973 they released a single, which went absolutely nowhere and didn't lead to a record deal. At that point, Rush decided to do what at that time was considered still a pretty novel way of doing business. They said screw the record labels, and they decided to create their own record label called Moon Records. In 1974, they released their debut album, simply called Rush, and released their first single off of it, Working Man. At first, the song seemed destined to go nowhere. Then a radio station in working-class city Cleveland, Ohio, started playing it because of its lyrics of pride of the working man. The song took off after that. Right after the success of Working Man, John Rutsey developed health problems concerning diabetes. Plus, he was never really a fan of touring to begin with, so he left the group. Geddy and Alex decided to go the auditions route to find their drummer, and they found one of the greatest drummers of all time, said by both critics and other drummers alike, Neil Peart. The partnership would last a lifetime. Neil did the majority of the lyrics, while Geddy and Alex took care of the musical part. At first, they started out as a regular rock band. In 1977, they went more into progressive rock, with albums like A Farewell to Kings and Hemispheres. Moving Pictures, Permanent Waves, Signals, Grace Under Pressure, Power Windows, and Hold Your Fire would continue that trend. They had hit singles like Closer to the Heart, Tom Sawyer, Big Money, Limelight, Show Don't Tell, Stick It Out, Time Stands Still, and many, many more. The group lasted until August 1st, 2015. On that date, they played their last show at the Los Angeles Forum. The only people who knew that this was going to be the final show was the band. When they were done playing, Neil Peart did something that he never did in any other concert. He came out from behind his drum kit and took in the applause with the rest of the band. Unbeknownst to everyone else, Neil had started his fight with brain cancer and wanted to spend what time he had left with his family. He actually had to be convinced by the other guys in the band to do this final tour. The band unofficially broke up in 2018. On January 7, 2020, Neil Peart passed away from brain cancer at the age of 67. Neil Peart was precise, yet reckless in his playing, and even at his wildest, though, you never thought that he was ever out of control, despite how reckless he used to play. He took drumming to a whole other level. It was a level that was needed in progressive rock if you were going to play it well. Neil was widely considered one of the greatest drummers of all time, both by critics, but especially from that group who knows how difficult it is to do what he did, other drummers themselves. Neil won Best Rock Drummer from Modern Drummer magazine 9 times, including winning Best Recorded Drum Performance from them 16 times. He also won 14 different awards from Drum magazine. In my opinion, he's probably the second best drummer behind Keith Moon of The Who, but I'm sure that's pretty much up for debate. Neil was the driving force behind the band as well, with some of his lyrics being put into a poetry book. He once told Rolling Stone magazine in 2015, quote, "It's about being your own hero. I never set out to betray the values that 16-year-old had, to never sell out, to never bow to the man. A compromise is what I can never accept." End quote. The other guys were no slouches either. Geddy Lee won Best Rock Bassist from Guitar Magazine 6 times, while Alex Lifeson won Best Rock Guitarist twice from Guitar Magazine and runner-up for Best Rock Guitarist in Guitar Magazine 4 different times. Rush released 19 studio albums, 11 live albums, 2 EPs, and 11 compilation albums. Of those, 23 hit the top 40, with 12 of those 23 going top 10, although none of them ever hit number 1. They also released 38 singles. Of those, 17 hit the top 40 on the various American charts, with 11 of those 17 hitting the top 10, including 2 that went to number 1, 1982's New World Man and 1989's Show Don't Tell. They had 24 gold albums and 14 platinum albums. They won 9 Juno Awards, 1 Grammy Award out of 7 nominations, and were made Officers of the Order of Canada in 1996. They also received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2010. The 3 members are considered among the greatest musicians to ever play their instruments, yet the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame took what seemed like forever to induct them into the Hall. They were first eligible for the Hall in 1998. They didn't get in until 2012, probably due to a bias that the Hall voters seem to have against progressive rock groups. In their native Canada, that was a much different story. They were inducted into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame in 1994. Presented for induction by Dave Grohl and Taylor Hawkins of 2021 Hall inductees, the Foo Fighters, Geddy Lee, Alex Lifeson, and the late great Neil Peart. The group Rush. inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2013, and we have put their greatest hits album onto this week's podcast music playlist, the link to which is in the show notes. Before we go any further, we'd like to tell you that there is now a Music History In-Depth podcast where we go more in depth on a few of the events that happened in music history for that particular week. The Music History In-Depth podcast drops every Tuesday on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast from, as does our Music History Today podcast, which goes over the daily events in music history. The Music History Today podcast drops daily, including weekends, on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, back to this podcast. We're continuing our look at artists who will be eligible for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the first time in 2025, i.e. next year. This week, our journey takes us to Utica, New York, for a musician's musician, blues rock artist Joe Bonamassa. To the tale of the tape we go. Joe Bonamassa has released 16 studio albums, 18 live albums, and 3 compilation albums. Of those, 7 went to the top 40, with the only one going top 10 being 2014's Different Shade of Blue, which went to number 8. Joe has also released 31 singles. Of those, 13 went to the top 20, with 8 of those 13 going top 10. Joe has also been nominated for 3 Grammy Awards, not winning one as of yet anyway. As far as what else he has going for his induction, he is one of the best technical guitarists in the game today, and his shows are legendary and definitely worth the money. I highly recommend going. What does he have going against him? Well, there are still some who want to haggle with the difference between rock and roll and the blues. However, since the blues birthed rock and roll, it shouldn't really be an issue by now, one would think. What will probably derail any inclination to put him on the ballot? Well, Joe himself, who, to be nice about it, doesn't really like the Hall of Fame. Should Joe Bonamassa be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? In my opinion, yep, absolutely 100%. His commercial success, plus his concerts and influence on many of today's guitars, would normally get him in. Will he get in, though? My thought is not quite in the current climate, which actually will suit Joe just fine since he doesn't really want to be in anyway. Still, he definitely deserves to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and as proof, we have put his music onto this week's podcast playlist as well. The link, as I always say, is in the show notes. There are many walks of fame in the world. The Aerospace Walk of Honor in Lancaster, California, and the Australian Film Walk of Fame in Sydney, Australia, just for examples. However, when you think of walks of fame, you really only think of one, don't you? It's the most famous walk of fame of them all. It is the Hollywood Walk of Fame in Hollywood, California. The idea for the walk was dreamed up by E.M. Stewart, who was president of the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce back in 1953. People think that the idea for having stars came from the Hollywood Hotel, which had stars on their ceiling in their dining room. The final parameters for the project were agreed upon in 1955 and presented to the Los Angeles City Council in 1956. Construction for the walk started in 1958 and ended in 1960. There were 8 people who were supposed to be given stars first: Olive Borden, Ronald Colman, Louise Fresenda, Preston Foster, Burt Lancaster, Edward Sedgwick, Ernest Torrance, and Joanne Woodward. However, director Stanley Kramer is credited with having his star installed on the actual Walk of Fame first, on March 28, 1960. Popular myth is that Joanne Woodward was the first star, but she was the first person to be photographed posing with her star, so that myth kind of stuck. The walk covers 1.3 miles down Hollywood Boulevard with a few side streets added as space permits. As of June 6, 2024, there were 2,782 stars. The stars are awarded in 5 different categories: film, television, theater/live performance, radio, and music. For our podcast, we'll only be dealing with artists who were awarded in either the radio or music categories. People who get stars have to pay $50,000 for the upkeep to the stars. Every year, the Chamber of Commerce gets over 200 names for consideration for a star, but only 20 to 24 stars are awarded during a normal year. There has only been one star that is not put on a sidewalk, Muhammad Ali, because he didn't want it to be walked on because he was a champion. He was inducted into the theater/live performance category, and his star is on a wall at Hollywood and Highland at 6801 Hollywood Boulevard, should you ever want to visit it. There have also been special stars given out to people who were part of the Hollywood community, such as former Los Angeles mayor, the late Tom Bradley, and honorary mayor of Hollywood and the guy most associated with promoting the Walk of Fame, the late great Mr. Johnny Grant. There have been stars given as well to people who were not entertainers, but who had done important things, such as the crew of Apollo 11. Usually, those stars are put in the live performance category. There have also been 2 presidents who were given stars, Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump. Reagan was given one for his radio and acting career, and Trump because of his TV show The Apprentice. Only one star so far in the history of the Walk of Fame has ever been considered for removal from the Walk of Fame, Donald Trump. As of yet, no final decision has been made about removing it, although perhaps that verdict that happened not too long ago might sway it the other way around. You never know. Politics, you know. The group Destiny's Child originally started out with the name Girls' Tyme, and in the beginning they had a lot of members. They eventually went down to 6 members in the group. They first appeared nationally on Ed McMahon's television competition show Star Search from back in the day. For you young bucks out there, the Star Search was So You Think You Can Dance, American Idol, Last Comic Standing, and America's Next Top Model all combined into one show. Each week, 2 contestants would compete. Winner came back the next week. Loser went home with the knowledge that they went to Hollywood and had their 15 minutes of fame. Actually, it was more like 5 minutes back then, but whatever. Turns out the group Girls' Tyme lost because, as lead singer Beyonce Knowles tells it, they chose the wrong song. That's right, kids. Beyonce lost a talent show contest, which should give hope to everybody out there to never listen to your critics and to keep going and doing what you're doing. Beyonce's father, Matthew, decided to become the group's manager at that point and cut the group members down to 4. Beyonce, Kelly Rowland, Latavia Robertson, and LaToya Luckett. Matthew also helped to hone the group's skills with singing and dancing lessons, and eventually the group got signed to a recording contract, and that's when they changed their name from Girls' Tyme to Destiny's Child. Their debut album was originally going to be called Bridges, but was renamed after the group. It was recorded in 11 different studios in 7 different cities, including Atlanta, Georgia, Oakland, California, New York City, and the group's hometown of Houston, Texas, all throughout 1997. They had 18 different producers, including famous names like Wyclef Jean of the Fugees and Jermaine Dupri. Their self-titled debut album was released on February 17, 1998 on Music World Records, which was Matthew Knowles' record label at the time, through 550 Records, which was operated through Sony's Epic Records. There were 13 songs on the original American release: Second Nature, No, 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 Parts 1 and 2, With Me, Parts 1 and 2, Tell Me, Bridges, Show Me the Way, Killing Time, Illusion, Birthday, My Time Has Come, and a cover version of the Commodore's smash hit song Sail On. The international release had a 14th song, Know That, while the Japanese release had a 15th song, The Spiritual Amazing Grace. A 2001 European release had the extra songs You're the Only One, a dubstep remix of Illusion called Dub Illusion, along with an extended remix of No, No, No. The first single from the album, Killing Time, was first heard 8 months before the album was ever released, when it ended up on the soundtrack album for the 1997 movie Men in Black. The first official release happened in October 1997, when they released both parts 1 and 2 of the song No, No, No. Both versions of the song did pretty well, going top 10 and hitting number 1 on the Billboard R&B singles chart. With Me was the next single released, which went top 20 in Europe but couldn't chart in America because it was only released to radio stations and wasn't for sale as a single to the general public. The last single release was Illusions, whose remixes did pretty well on the charts. As for the chart action of the album itself, well, it entered the Billboard Albums chart at number 69 and only made it up 2 spots to number 67 in its 5th week before finally dropping off the chart after 26 weeks. On Billboard's R&B chart, it got as high as number 14. Internationally, the album did better, getting as high as number 29. It also reached platinum status 2 years after it came out, mainly due to the breakout success of their second album. Critically, the first album received average scores. Kelly Rowland called the album's debut a moderate success, but said that the neo-soul sound of the songs was way too mature for the group, who were very young at the time. In fact, Beyoncé was about 7 months away from turning 17 when the debut album was released, as her birthday is September 4th, 1981. Their second album, Writings on the Wall, in 1999, was the one that gave them superstardom. The hits on that album were Bills, Bills, Bills and Say My Name. The album sold 8 million copies in America, while the singles conquered the R&B and dance charts. Once the album became popular, band tensions started to show. 2 of the members, Latavia and Latoya, were let go from the group after they started complaining that Beyoncé and Kelly Rowland were getting favoritism in the group. They sued the group and ended up reaching a settlement. In the meantime, they were replaced by Michelle Williams and Farrah Franklin. Franklin only lasted 5 months before being let go, and that left Destiny's Child as Beyoncé, Kelly, and Michelle, otherwise known as the Classic Lineup. Overall, as the hit albums and singles kept coming, Destiny's Child would rack up one of the most impressive resumes for any group in the new century. They had 23 singles, 10 of which hit the top 10 in America. They had 14 Grammy nominations, with 3 winning. They are now the biggest selling girl group in music history, after having sold over 60 million records worldwide, and are the 9th biggest selling artists of the first decade of this century, before they broke up in February 19th, 2006, after performing at the NBA All-Star Game. Beyoncé, of course, went on to international solo success and has almost become a billionaire without her husband Jay-Z's money, no less. Kelly has had success on the dance charts with producer/DJ David Guetta, along with doing a duet with rapper Nelly. Michelle has had some success as well. Also, as Kelly promised during their All-Star Game appearance, their last album was their final album, but not their final appearance together, as the trio still perform together every few years or so, mainly doing surprise appearances at different Beyoncé performances, like, say, the Super Bowl halftime show. Located at 6801 Hollywood Boulevard, in front of the Ovation Hollywood Shopping Mall, in front of the Walgreens and the Ben & Jerry's, which, honestly, not a bad place to be. Loves me some Ben & Jerry's. You will find the star of the biggest selling girl group in music history, Destiny's Child, on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in Hollywood, California. The Music Halls of Fame podcast is part of the Music History Today network, which can be found under Music History Today on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcast from, and also on our YouTube page under Music History Today. Thank you very much for listening.